Let's get started. Before we jump into the 7 steps, I've got 2 kind of precursors that I want to talk about. And this is very much around meal planning, but it's not the actual planning itself. So the first thing is to, actually, you know what? Let me introduce myself first. Let me go back. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Bear with me. Okay, so Lauren Bragg, and certified health and happiness coach. I run simplypaleo.com. That's how most of you know me. And I also run Wellness Vixen. So Simply Paleo is kind of the recipe side, and Wellness Vixen is the coaching side. So like I said, meal planning is kind of this like elusive, really difficult thing to do. And I am obsessed with Breaking Bad, so I thought this was hilarious. So yeah, we're going to be doing planning and prepping, and it's going to be great. So this first thing is called the kitchen makeover, and it's the kind of like, we have to do this because I'll give you kind of a sneak peek. One of the steps in the meal plan is to take an inventory of what you already have and put it into the meal plan for the week. So it's basically saying, like, if we're going to take inventory of what we already have and apply that to some of our meals throughout the week, we really want that inventory to look healthy and not processed. So my mom is a feng shui practitioner, and when she feng shuis a space or a room or a desk, the first thing she has you do is clear off everything. So you're basically wiping everything clean, you're pulling it out of the shelf or, off of the desk or whatever. And she has you wipe it clean and kind of prep the surface, and then mindfully place everything back in. So that's what I'd like you to do with your kitchen. And I don't want you to start with this all at once. I would say the best place to start is the pantry. We got a lot of sneaky things in there, like macaroni and cheese and weird mayo products. And, it just tends to be a place where a lot of items live with ingredients that we can't pronounce. So start with you can even start with one shelf in your pantry if this kind of freaks you out. So we're going to kind of cleanse it, and you've got 3 different piles. The first pile is going to be stuff to keep, which hopefully is like almond meal and coconut oil and nuts and seeds and dried fruit and spices and honey, all that kind of yummy, good stuff. And then the second pile is going to be to donate. And the third pile is going to be to trash. So trash is like it's already been opened, questionable quality, maybe we should ditch it. Now, I know the donate part sounds kind of scary because I absolutely understand that we spend money on food, and to just give it away seems kind of counterintuitive. But I want to assure you that there are food banks and there are people that need it. And there are 2 types of food in this world. There are types of food that will get you closer to your goals, and there are types of food that will push you farther from your goals. So I want you to kind of intuitively understand that there are things in your cupboard that are not going to be conducive to getting you to accomplish your goals, and to maybe be generous with those types of food. Now, again, if this freaks you out, let's maybe, instead of the donate pile, let's put it on a different shelf, out of eyesight, maybe at the very, very bottom, and we're going to label it the naughty shelf. And by associating it with the naughty shelf, we are kind of understanding that if you go and get something from that shelf, you got to own it. It's called the naughty shelf, and you know that you probably shouldn't have it. And I'm not saying don't treat yourself, but I'm saying if you refuse to get rid of some of this stuff or donate some of these items, keep it on a different shelf, the naughty shelf. Okay, so the next thing, and then there's this photo. Look at this pantry and this refrigerator. Doesn't that just like stress level gone? All right, grocery store. Ooh, yeah, another thing with the pantry. So did you know that if those foods that you crave are in your pantry, you're going to eat them? Have you ever noticed that? So my theory is, all right, if it's in my pantry and I know that it's not conducive with my goals, I'm probably going to eat it in a time of weakness when you've had a shitty day or whatever, stress. Where do they come from? If they're in your pantry, where do they come from? Ooh, the grocery store. Yeah, so what happens at the grocery store happens to your body. This is absolutely pivotal. What happens at the grocery store happens to your body. If your cart is full of organic veggies and sustainably raised local meats and fish and wild caught fish and all that that's what's happening to your body. If it's full of processed, horrible sugar-laden food, that's what's happening to your body. But you are the single point of entry. When you're at that grocery store, you have control of what goes into that cart. So it's kind of like learning to navigate the grocery store. So understanding what you buy, what you eat. It's what ends up in the cupboard, and it's that just one moment of weakness where your whole week just goes up in flames. Avoid the center aisles. This is kind of a no-brainer, but staying to the perimeter of the grocery store where the vegetables and the meat is. Also, eating first. Please eat before you go to the grocery store. And also, please don't bring your super hungry husband after he gets off work and then he piles armloads full of groceries into your cart. Not the smartest idea. Another thing, kind of putting the grocery stores aside for a second, is thinking about farmers markets and CSAs. It's good for your local community. It's good for Mother Nature. You're focusing on things that are local, so there's less fossil fuels and how far it has to travel to get to you. And think about, okay, right now, temptations for you to buy food that is not conducive toward your goal at a grocery store. Candies, chips, ice cream, weird, just bad processed food. Think about that temptation at the grocery store, and think about the kind of temptations that you would face at the farmer's market. Like, what are you going to buy? Like a 20-pound bag of dates, or like, I don't know, maybe some local organic honey. There's not a whole lot of temptation there. It's just really good, wholesome food. So I really want to encourage you to kind of find that. Just Google local farmer's market, and you will hopefully find one. So the next thing we're going to get into, those are my two kind of precursors, like the feng shui your kitchen and then understanding what's up at the grocery store. So now we're going to get into the actual meal planning. You're like, finally. And we're going to start with step 1, because we should. So step number 1 is to plan out your week. So you're going to get this cute little template. You can also just write down on a piece of paper days a week across the top, or breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks down the side. And what I do is just kind of take a look at what I've got going on. Like tomorrow, I'm going to the Incubus concert. I'm so excited. And I know Friday, I've got a late meeting, brunch with Hubs on Sunday. So kind of just use this grid to plan out what meals you're going to be eating at home and what meals you might not be able to eat at home for planning purposes. So step number 2 is the inventory check. And this is where you're going to save a pile of money. But remember back when I said you've got to make sure that your inventory is kind of on point, because we're going to be applying it to the meal plan. So make sure to check your fridge, check your freezer, check your fruit basket and your pantry, and just write everything down. You don't have to write down all your spices necessarily, but you can kind of see here I had some like pollo asado and some potatoes and, maybe things I didn't want to eat like pizza crust, or things I did want to eat like green beans. And basically you're just going to kind of plunk these into your meal plan and see if you can kind of get creative with using what you already have to not buy as many groceries. That's the key. All right, so step number 3 is recipe hunting. So of course, use the Google. So something that you have on hand, like green beans, plus the word healthy or paleo or clean eating or whatever you want to call it, will equal a ton, thousands of recipes. So just knowing to really rely on Google, and also, to recognize what is actually healthy and not healthy. But using Google and what you have will give you a recipe. Of course, you can use Simply Paleo. It's the new version, and there's that search bar, and it's gorgeous. And Pinterest is also a really great recipe resource as well. So this is kind of taking like, okay, this is what I have, and there are a bunch of ingredients. If I use these search features, what can I come up with for a recipe that I can actually input into my week? Okay, so number 4, and this is, you guys, number 4 is the hardest part. So I'm going to try and break it down super simple, but this is the part that's just going to take practice. So here's what the full meal plan looks like. And honestly, I never do it on the computer. I just have crazy handwriting. So I and I have these lined out for my Vixens. So I just wanted to kind of show you what it looks like, but you can do this by hand. So I have dinner highlighted, and that's because I always start with dinner. So from the dinners I know I'm gonna have at home, I pick a protein. So if I'm like, oh, I have grass-fed ground beef, or I have salmon, or I'm craving shrimp, or whatever, just start with that. You don't even have to have a recipe. You don't have to know what you're gonna do with it. Just start with a protein. And the other part is to pick a veggie. So, or two. So if you want to maybe throw zucchini on the grill, or if you just want a big salad, I usually try and have my veggie portions exceed the size of my protein portion. And I'm not like a big portion, don't like weigh anything or get weird. It's just about kind of focusing on that plant-based diet, but having really clean, quality, local, sustainably raised protein sources as well. Okay. So then you can come back to the recipe hunting again. So if you've got, this is how it works for me. So like, I didn't just write down crock-pot cabbage rolls on Monday. I had ground beef, so I wrote down ground beef. And then I went to the Google and I Googled healthy ground beef recipes or paleo ground beef recipes. And I was like, ooh, I actually Googled that. I actually searched for that on my own website because this is my recipe. My husband really loved it. So, and then, we've got a leftover here. So leftover and then adding a garden salad, no big deal. Probably out for dinner because the concert. And then again here, I didn't have honey lime salmon with asparagus and bacon. I just had my protein and I had asparagus left over from my inventory. So Googling those and putting those together, this is what I got. I really want to encourage you guys to check out Cave Girl Cuisine, my girl Michelle. She is a fabulous cook. Everything is super clean, super easy. This honey lime salmon takes about 7 minutes to cook and 5 minutes to prep, and it's absolutely wonderful. So then, just another salmon dish left over. So it starts with dinner for me. And one of the premises I really want to talk to you guys about is to cook once, eat twice. So by cooking once and eating twice, you are cutting down on costs, and you've got leftovers, which always taste better the next day for some reason. And it's just a really effective way to kind of do this. So next, let's go to lunch. Okay, so lunch is a combination for me always of leftovers, and I always pick one fresh recipe that I eat twice throughout the week. So what this means is like, okay, I have a lunch date, but leftover and leftover and leftover. But like, no one wants to eat leftovers every day for lunch, right? So sweet potato hash browns and chicken apple sausage. I'm like, that sounds pretty good. That's something I had in my inventory, so I'll add those. And then you notice I eat it twice. Same thing with breakfast. So breakfast, come back, and I've got some leftovers. I've got some easy things like hard-boiled eggs in here. But also kale and eggs, fresh recipe for breakfast, and I'm doing that twice. So basically, no one wants to eat the same breakfast every day either. So, and then for snacks, just kind of filling in things that I crave or I like eating. Like I said, I'm going to give you my snack and lunch ideas, and this brings up a really important point for me is that I want you to blur the lines between what you can eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So when you're like, oh my gosh, a salad for breakfast would be so weird. It's not weird. It's clean eating, and it's fuel, and it's delicious. And have bacon and eggs for dinner. So all of these just kind of mishmash together. And so you have a lot more options for your meals when you don't have those strict buckets that you put foods in, like this is breakfast, this is lunch, and this is dinner. So another question I think you might be wondering about right now is like, all right, Lauren, this is pretty easy, but like the problem is like thinking of this stuff. Like how are you coming up with these things? And like I said, Google, I'm just Googling things. I'm on Pinterest, I'm checking things out. You can create boards, and then also just kind of utilize simplypaleo.com. It's like a safe place. You guys all know me, you all know the drill. And also just to use that snack and lunch generator is so easy. If you're also like feeling uninspired, think of paleo, type in paleo dinner ideas, and they'll come up with like 25 paleo dinner ideas that you've never had before, and just try and find some inspiration through that. So it does take a little bit of digging, but you don't have to do all the hard work. Okay, so that was the hard part. We made it through number 4. Now number 5 is so easy. It's just making a grocery list, and it's literally I go from Monday breakfast, or I go Monday all the way down, and I go Tuesday all the way down. So I go from left to right, top to bottom. So kale and eggs. I need eggs, and I need kale, and I need coconut oil, and I need hot sauce. So I know that because the recipe is hyperlinked in here, but this is my recipe. So I know what the recipe calls for. So as you go through this, you would just basically bring up the recipe and see what it calls for and just add it in. We've got 3 sections: meats, veggies, and others, like, pantry stuff. And, veggies will always be larger in the Wellness Vixen program. And so yeah, just go through. Again, I'll show you another example. Crock-pot cabbage rolls. I've got grass-fed ground beef, which I actually don't need because that was in my inventory. I know I need yellow onion, some herbs, garlic, and cabbage. And then I also need cayenne pepper, crushed tomatoes, and extra virgin olive oil. So it's just going through recipe by recipe from top to bottom, left to right, and plopping it into a grocery list. Easy enough. All right, so prep day. So here's where I was like, okay, we're not doing prep meals, but we do have a prep day. So we've got a little bit of stuff to do. This also is pretty intuitive. It's also going top to right, top to bottom, left to right, and just going in and kind of looking at the things that you could do to make your weeknights easier. So kale and eggs, unless I'm doing hard-boiled eggs, probably not a whole bunch. But if I were doing hard-boiled eggs, I would hard-boil eggs on my Sunday afternoon during prep day. Crock-pot cabbage rolls. These would be in the crock-pot on Sunday evening, so I didn't have to do a damn thing on Monday. Banana almond butter sandwiches, leftover. Ooh, garden salad, absolutely. Wash and prep all of your salad greens. Put them in a Tupperware. Put all of your salad side ingredients. Chop them up. Your carrots and radishes and green onion, or jicama, whatever you like to have with your salad. Prep all those and put them in a separate Tupperware. Whip up a salad dressing. Leave that out, room temperature, and then grab a handful of salad greens, a handful of the side, and then drizzle with the dressing, and you're good to go. So then you have your leftover cabbage rolls and a salad that took you like 12 seconds. So, just going through, like, maybe I could cook the bacon for the asparagus. Maybe I can shred the sweet potatoes for the hash browns. So this is what the prep day looks like. So just kind of a list of things that you can do if you have an hour or 2 hours to make your weekdays really, really easy. So number 7, and this is the last step of the 7-step process, obviously, is to schedule time to cook and eat. It sounds silly, right? But scheduling time to cook and eat, I would give you an hour and a half on the days that you're home to, maybe an hour, not even an hour, to cook and to eat. So to sit down and put these in your calendar. I put them in, like, I put my dinners every day of the week that I'm home. I put them in and schedule them. And I also kind of give myself a little bit of a window to put them together and also to eat. So I treat them like appointments. Things come up, of course, but I just know in advance what I'm going to be preparing and what time I need to get up from the computer and stop hanging out with my Vixens and get in the kitchen. So the other thing is mindful eating, and this kind of goes back to the energetics of food and understanding that there is energy that goes into the food that you cook, and there's energy that goes into how the animal was raised, or where the vegetable was grown, or how far all this stuff had to travel to get to us. So mindful eating is also, getting rid of the cell phone when you're at the dinner table and sitting down to actually enjoy the effort that you put into the meal. Because this stuff, there's 7 steps, and I know that it sounds like a lot, but yeah, there is a little bit of effort that goes into this. And if you just scarf it down and you're like on to the next thing, you're not really taking time to appreciate what you've put into it. So that said, we are at the end of the 7 steps. So we still have the best part of the whole webinar coming